Welcome to Game On, folks. It's green versus blue, but the traditional colour palette in Scottish football has changed this season, with maroon and amber being helping paint an incredible picture in a title race for the ages. And the artist joining me today, see what I've done there? The artist joining me today is Mr. Fraser Wilson.
Formerly known as. First time I've ever been called an artist.
Formerly known as Andrew.
Yeah.
Have you
I think
okay.
I know what kind of artist you're hinting at here. The rhyme with Swiss.
Yes, that's it. Have you brushed up your knowledge for this mammoth weekend?
Well, no, I've tried. I like this new setup, by the way.
It's
very
good,
Smith and Jones, isn't it?
Exactly. We are very Smith and Jones.
Maybe not quite as funny, but
no, we'll try our best today. Maybe people get laughed out of us by the end of it, but let's hope they get informed opinion. You all know the format by now. Fast-paced answers on the big burning issues in Scottish football. But before we start, just a quick word to our sponsors. Shout out to NordVPN, the absolute best when it comes to protecting your privacy, bank details, passwords, and other forms of identity. So that's it. That's the formalities done, mate. Are you ready to get stuck in?
Go for it.
Let's go for it. It's a massive weekend,
All right, and about it. Come on.
Massive game. Let's go for it. Who wins the big one at Ibrox on Sunday?
Big one at Ibrox. Well, I've seen fans of both sides suggest they've got the momentum going into this one, but for me, I think this one's got draw written all over it. Two sides that have repeatedly had the door open to them. Well, sorry, they've had the door open to them a few times recently by Hearts slipping up St Mirren against Rangers, and then they followed up and repeatedly failed to take the opportunity to close that gap in Hearts. So I think that raises a few questions about mentality in this title race. In terms of the game itself, I'm just not overly convinced by either side's defence. I think both can score goals, there's no doubt about it. But I think at the back, at times, it can look a bag of jaggies. Rangers looked surprisingly disorganised at times at Livy last week. Celtic, we know, although they were very good against Stuttgart on Thursday night, which has maybe changed my mind a little bit, they're capable of throwing up the odd wobbler as well. So I don't know. I think this one's got draw written all over it, and that's not me sitting on the fence. I can see a similar scenario to that April 2024 game, that absolute bonkers 3-3 draw that didn't really do either side.
Oh, you think there'll be goals?
I think there'll be goals. I'm saying that. I think defences won't be on top. I think both can score goals. I think there will be goals at both ends. I just don't think either will be separated. I think the big winners out of this weekend again, I think, will be Hearts and possibly Motherwell. Graeme, what's your thoughts on it?
I think Rangers will win. I think they'll play well. I think they've cracked something here where, in my prediction for the paper, I've said that the 3 draws in a row away from home have underlined that they're far from the finished article. But I think Nadiri and Romans, in particular, are the type of signings who can quickly make an impact in this fixture. I think Danny Rohl's found a way. He's pretty pragmatic as well, and I know when he arrived, there's talk like kind of very offensive football, but I think that's his greatest strength right now. He's a real level of pragmatism. In this game, he'll pick his moments in the game. Celtic, it's been a season packed with trials and tribulations, hasn't it? It really had. But I feel there's this kind of safety. It's a Neil, you'll be able to get something at Ibrox, a performance. But I just think Rangers will play the game more than the occasion, and I think they might have enough quality to prove too much for Celtic. I feel.
Well, time will tell.
But one man doesn't agree with that, does he?
Oh, I was talking about Luke McCowan here. Yes. Luke McCowan, aye. Look, I thought Celtic were very good in Stuttgart the other night, maybe surprisingly good. Luke McCowan certainly wasn't mincing his words when he came out to face the media, maybe too quickly last night. But what was it he said? On their game, nobody can touch Celtic. Does he have a point? Is that pre-match bravado? Is it an own goal? What do you think?
I think it is an own goal, but just quickly before I say that, I think Luke McCowan's a breath of fresh air. You put him in front of a microphone, he cannot help himself from being, and this isn't even a criticism, it's an honesty. He speaks like a fan in the best possible way. He gives you, he's very emotional. Who ties events on the pitch to their family the way he does? He wears his heart on his sleeve, but I think it's a mistake because the old bulletin board and all this and put it on the wall, I don't know if that has the same effect in the current generation of players. I think they're more insular and more focused on the game itself, but at the same time, Celtic rocking up to Ibrox with so many defeats this season, and everybody knows that another defeat would be catastrophic. I think he probably wishes he didn't say it. And let's be honest, I think Cal McGregor's always been very vocal in his admiration of McCowan. You can always tell he's a fan and wants him to do well. But I think that's the kind of thing that Martin O'Neill and Cal McGregor would like to avoid if they could, these kind of comments. But I do respect him for coming out and having enough. But I just feel that, again, as I said with the Rangers, their strength is this kind of pragmatism, cool approach. I just feel that this is something that maybe Rangers were more likely to, Agath, they'd have been more likely to commit in recent years. But Celtic, the emotional team now, they know they're not the Celtic of recent times, so they're trying to kind of G themselves up, and I think it'll take more than that.
It certainly won't go unnoticed, unmentioned, in the Rangers dressing room, will it? Tell you what, Luke McCowan's maybe handed his teammates a hospital pass here, because there's an awfully good chance he does the start of the game. He might not play a single minute. It's not my fault. If I'd been playing, we were untouchable. Certainly took his goal very well the other night. I like it as well. They've got to have come out with belief, and I don't think it's fake belief in his part. I think he genuinely believes. And maybe he's got a point. If Celtic are on a song, maybe nobody can touch them. The problem is they haven't been far too often this season. Things are going against them. Maybe things in games have knocked them off their stride, and they've been knocked off their stride too easy. One thing, they need the big players to step up at Ibrox. They need whoever starts on goal for obvious reasons. Tierney, Scales, McGregor, Oxlade, Chamberlain, whoever's up top, they need the big players on their game. Then it's up to them to prove if they're untouchable.
So talking about big decisions, Martin O'Neill said he didn't like the phrase headache. He prefers food for thought. And on the menu for him is who's going to be between the sticks. Sinisalo or Schmeichel. Now, who would you go for? You're the keeper here, what's the goalie doing?
Up until last night, I wasn't even sure, but I think after last night, it's a piece of cake to stick that decision, to stick with the food for thought theme here. I think we can all see Schmeichel's star is on the wane. An absolute fantastic goal in his prime, but he's a year or two past his prime now. And unfortunately, last thing Celtic need, with all the nerves surrounding this occasion anyway, is somebody between the sticks that you can't hang your hat on, stopping the ball going in the net. And unfortunately, there's been too many instances where, again, sticking with that theme, shots that would have been meat and drink to prime Schmeichel are somehow getting through him. I think with the shoulder issues he's had.
Is he dived just for a bit of insight on goalkeeping? And he's pretty modest, but he was a pretty good goalkeeper himself. Well, no, I'm serious, right? So tell me, what is maybe the biggest issue? The way he's diving, is that almost a dereliction of duty?
The shoulder is the issue, right? I'm telling you, because I played with shoulder injuries, both shoulders torn, rotator cuffs for the last couple, and I do not want to bore people, but the speed of the shots he's facing, particularly I would never have faced, you're always subconsciously protecting your shoulder when you dive, especially at full stretch. Folk talk about a strong hand. A strong hand only comes from a strong shoulder. So if you're protecting it and even diving, if it's slightly back, you're not going to keep that ball out the net. Don't let both folk any further. Sinisalo's jersey now, I thought he played very well in Stuttgart. I thought he made 2 or 3 very good saves, but probably more importantly for me, he kind of commanded his box at times, took some awkward crosses. Finished international, decent age, 24. Celtic paid 7 figures from 2 years ago. He's never had a proper run in the team. This is his time, and what bigger test than Ibrox? I think it is now time to take the gamble, because both of them would be a gamble for different reasons. Maybe gamble in Sinisalo.
I think it has to be. Obviously, started last year the one each that was kind of dead rubber, wasn't it, Ibrox? But the one thing Brendan Rodgers liked about him was this big personality. He commands his box. His passing's pretty sharp as well, so he gives you that. Feels that Schmeichel he's kind of going into his shell with the passing element as well. Everything's going wrong for him. But this fixture is littered with players throughout history who've been able to rise to the occasion. Sinisalo, the makeup of his personality seems someone who could be able to do it.
What's his accent, by the way?
I know it's a bit of everything.
Last night,
he spent a bit Exeter, Birmingham, touch of Glasgow,
a touch of Birmingham, and a bit of
Scandinavia.
He spoke very well. Just in front of him, then Graeme, to back this one back to you, Auston Trusty definitely won't play. Starts his 3-match ban. Who comes in to replace him beside probably Liam Scales?
Well, the food for thought comment for Neil last night, I think probably directly related to Dane Murray, because he's been a player about even back in Angie's early days. It's crazy to think played Champions League qualifiers at the start of the Ange era, but I felt there was some dangerous moments early on, but he's a decent player. And I think Trusty guided him well through the game last night. Trusty was excellent, and that probably only underlines how much he'll be missed. But I think Scales can do a similar job. I know Benjamin Arthur came on. He looks the part as well. He looks a proper young Premier League, 20 million potential, that kind of level of profile of player. But he's so raw. Like, he's not been exposed. Celtic have been there recent years.
120 minutes against Aston Villa in the Cup. Against a good Aston Villa side.
Yeah, but I just that at this age you're looking for the 70 minutes away for part. Do you know what you mean? Like the more kind of just battle tested element of it, where he's obviously like an imposing figure. But I think it's an ask. You've seen the Wagger Bielke, other players recently who it's all come undone at Ibrox, just too exposed. Kobayashi, there's been so many examples of that. I think Dane Murray's more tried and tested. And do you know, even with the Stephen Welsh example, where a guy who flirted around the first team, didn't get the proper opportunities, and then look at Motherwell. I think Dane Murray's good enough to go there and play well.
Yeah.
I think he's a safer option, and I think it would be the right call. If he goes a 4, I'm almost certain he will.
Yeah.
But Sirachi's playing that well, you think, is there a way we can mix things up? But if it's a 4, which most likely will be, he'd be the one for me. How would you do it?
I was swinging towards Benjamin Arthur until watching the Stuttgart game again last night. O'Neill talks about food for thought. I think he's giving him a headache. Some of those, and I know we talk about good headaches, don't they? But on it, how do you choose between them? Again, both are a gamble. I think Dane Murray's a cracking big player. Both are physical specimens, which is good. Dane Murray I've really liked, but I think there's been a couple of big games this season. One at Tynecastle, where I thought, not quite bullied, but he looked a bit shaken. He did.
But is this not the evolution of a young player that you have these
100%? But is Sunday the time to continue? I don't look. He'd say the same for both players. Benjamin Arthur's only 20, isn't he? I spoke to a couple of folk that worked with him. Well, I spoke to one person that's worked with him this week in the Peterborough Academy, and he said he's a fantastic player. He will be a Premier League star. Said there's a reason why Brentford have handed him a 6-year contract this season on the back of his first 2 years at Brentford, because they see he's going to be a Premier League star. Is he ready for this? There's only one way to find out.
Danny Rohl will turn over the City.
So I didn't have to answer that question. Thanks for that.
No, are you going to?
I don't know.
I thought that was a... Sorry, if you go speak now or forever regret it, go.
Dane Arthur. Dane Murray. Dane Murray.
Go for it. So across the City, Danny Rohl has been a pretty decent, more than decent start today. He's managed to get them back on track, but this is where Rangers seasons are judged. It's about winning trophies, and there's not been enough of that in recent times. Does he have to deliver the silverware this season to make his first season a success?
Oh, it's quite tough actually to make it a success. Possibly. Possibly. Right. To make it a success, the obvious answer is yes. He needs to deliver something tangible, whether it's a Scottish Cup or the title. If he delivers that, then gee whiz, we're doing in Rangers history after that start they made. I thought you were going to ask, does he need to deliver silverware to keep his job? That'd be another thing altogether. That'd be ridiculous if he didn't. And that would just be ridiculous. The Rangers have fired too many managers. Good managers that deserve the sack. I still think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, and I'll stand by Philip Clement, would have come good. So no, I get the question. Yes, he does need to deliver silverware for the season to have been a success, but for him to have been a success, I don't think it's imperative, because what he took on, and we've all spoken about it, the state of the club, well, the state of the football team, the state of the squad and what they were delivering on the park, in an instant, he's turned back into what Rangers fans expect. He's brought a bit of pride back. He's certainly brought he's got Ibrox rocking again. If you compare that to what Parkhead is these days, Ibrox is absolutely rocking. He's got the faith of the fans, which is the first thing you have to do. He's pragmatic. He gets the best out of players, and he 100% deserves a full season to see what he can bring to the table next season. But in terms of being an actual success, yeah, he probably does need to deliver one of the 2 trophies that he himself has put Rangers in contention for. I
think he's got a good way with him, in the sense when he speaks, it feels like he knows how it will end, right? And obviously doesn't, right? But there's this impression that this is all part of the plan. The away draws are just part of this. As long as we're in the mix, he'll find a way to win it. That's when he speaks, that's the way, the impression. But all of that falls like a pack of cards on itself, because you've got, if you can't find a way to see off Celtic, or after the split go to Tynecastle, or find another victory at Celtic Park, which he's managed this season.
Yeah.
But I think for a manager where he's came from, his age, everything, it's been very impressive up to this point. But almost feels that this chapter here has been excellent. He deserves praise, but it'll count for very little in the long run if you can't see it through. And that's Glasgow, isn't it? That's the city. That's what you're judged upon. I just think it's a fascinating for a manager who's obviously got plenty of ability, what comes next? What's the next act for him? And we're about to
Well,
find out.
what comes next in his midfield for Sunday?
Yeah.
Get a day right, Fraser. What day is it?
Mm-hmm.
Big decisions across the park, but the biggest one for a lot of supporters, maybe up top, but also, does he go 2 in the midfield? Does he go 3? Who should they be? If you are in Danny Rohl's Brown Brogues, what are you choosing on Sunday?
I would go with the 3 defensive-minded midfielders and go back to 1 striker. I know there's this. I know the feeling is it's Chermiti and Nadiri, and I think Nadiri's a good bet to come back into the mix, as far as I understand. But I would find a way of getting the 3 in the midfield. I still think that Celtic's calling card, if they can get it, Chamberlain and McGregor, there's enough quality in there. So I would go Diamande, Raskin, and Chiquani as well. I think that Diamande at times, I don't think there's any player at Rangers who goes up and down in the estimations of fans. He's great games, guys. That's the Diamande, and then it's this kind of the highs are high and the lows are low. But I feel in this game, I think he's got plenty of experience in the fixture now as well. I just think it gives Rangers a better chance. I felt that was the biggest weakness in the cup game. I felt Celtic were like a runaway train in that first 35 minutes at Hampden. I know Rangers had chances, but really pressed on them. Engels was brilliant, who won't play. But there was an energy that Rangers couldn't cope with. I think Danny Rohl, I think the game at Celtic Nancy, it's just an outlier. It was just a strange. I think he's obviously competed against Neil once, and that was the biggest issue with his team. The central midfield got overworked, and I think he has to find a way to stop that. So that I think the working theory is it'll be 2 up top. I think for that reason it won't be. And then he decides what he does with Moore, Scovels, and players like that, potentially Asgard, however it plays out. But I think he'll go with the kind of more pragmatic 3, which backs up what we've said about him already.
Get
How
that.
do you see it going?
Could be a few debutants here, couldn't they? And the first thing that comes to mind is Rangers will have to deal with Oxlade-Chamberlain, who's pretty certainly start for Celtic.
I think he'll definitely start.
So there is that, but at the same time at Ibrox, as I did against Hearts, I wouldn't rip up the Hearts template too much for that 4-2 victory the other week. I think Rangers have to be in the front foot and play on their terms. And I think Chuck Wani with Raskin in the middle of the park gives you enough to protect the defence and also have the legs to get forward. Chuck Wani is a physical specimen, isn't he? So he can cover for Raskin's lack inches. But again, Raskin can get forward and has proven these games as a goal threat as well. I just think to free up maybe an extra attacking player, I'll go with 2 up top again, the 2 big boys to rumble up the Celtic defence, and probably Moore and Scott Wilson.
And that lets Romans and Tavernier go up
Absolutely,
and down.
aye.
Maybe with the 3 in the midfield, you might take away Romans. That's kind of, he's like something like the 90s, isn't it? A proper forward.
It's really good. He's literally potentially the best signing of the 4 in January. But look, it'll be interesting to see what happens in there. Aye, we've both come up with different. But it all comes down to the players on the day, doesn't it?
It definitely does. But so here we are, a season for the ages. It's been absolutely magic. Everyone's loved it. It's been for a while. It's been described as a 3-way title race, but it's a 4-way title race if Motherwell keep up going as they go, right.
Aye.
Here's one for you, Fraser. Cards on the table, right? If the league, right, say the league reset to 0 points, right, and the 4 teams in the mix had the remaining fixtures that are outstanding. There's a couple with an extra game. Who would you pick for the title for this point with the fixtures?
All being equal, all starting at 0, all with the fixtures that are remaining.
Yeah.
It's a great question, isn't it?
No.
So Hearts lose their 4-point advantage. Well, here you go. Say it's a 4-point race. I'd go for Motherwell right now.
That's incredible because
I go for Motherwell because one, I think, and this holds true for the current state of affairs anyway, the team that will win it are the team with the best defensive record from now on in. And boy, oh boy, Motherwell's defensive record. So much has been rightly written about this aggressive front foot, attractive attacking style that Jens Bertolausku's brought in, which is phenomenal. But the thing that makes it even more incredible for me is the fact they're not conceding goals. I was counting last night, is it 4 goals in their last 10? They've conceded 18 and 27 anyway, and I think it's 4 in their last 10 games. If they replicate that, they'll always score goals. Then in this league you're talking about, this starting from scratch league, they would win it. I think the other 3, I think Rangers and Celtic will concede too many goals. And I just think Motherwell right now, I don't know what the current form table looks like, but Motherwell above Hearts in it, I think.
Yeah, they are.
Honestly, I think they're solid defensively. They're playing with so much belief, confidence going forward. They've got difference makers. Maswin needs to be an obvious one, but Elijah Just, what's come back in, Elijah Just, they've got difference makers all over the park. Callum Slattery, he's been there a few years, and the difference in his game again. Aye, I would say Motherwell. Throwing it back at you, Graeme. On you go.
Motherwell, honestly, that's a great because I think everyone wants to pick Motherwell, or there's a belief that Motherwell could win the league outright, but it just feels that it's a wee bit of work.
They need
get
three
past
teams to
exactly,
throw it. Aye,
and then you start getting into a kind of fantasy where almost, if you're doing predicting results, you need to almost slant the results in such a ridiculous way that everything goes in Motherwell's favour. But just a team like Ascu's incredible. I think that's the craziest bit, that we've waited this long for a title challenger to Celtic Rangers. One comes along in Hearts, but then this other team who are maybe even in their own way more impressive, because that's no criticism to Derek McInnes, because I think he's
brilliant. Two different ways of
exactly.
doing it.
Derek McInnes probably doesn't enough credit for a lot of this is him, and I know Jamestown all this, but a lot of the basis of the team, the spine, is just a seasoned manager coming to his peak and then sprinkling the good signings. But Motherwell and Magic, and you can see why.
Hearts deserve to be where they are.
Oh,
and there is not a right way of doing it. Don't tell me that Tynecastle match day this season hasn't been every bit as thrilling as watching Motherwell. I've been there lots. I was there last week watching them beat Falkirk 1-0, and the bit was absolutely rocking. It's a pleasure being at Tynecastle and watching that team this season. So you're right, good on them. Whose turns it to ask a question?
Adrian, it's about Hearts. You've timed it well.
Right. It's been another kind of painful week for them on the injury front.
Yep.
Hearts, Stuart Finlay out for 6 weeks. Asia out for the season. We've already, Derek McInnes last week said they had 9 players out, 6 central midfielders. Can they handle this mountain injury crisis and maintain the lead?
It's going to be an ask, but sometimes I think McInnes, again, touching on how seasoned the manager is, that you don't want good players on the shelf, but sometimes see just a bit of internal strife, just so it's not external, it's within, and we can rally the troops. But it gets to a point where it's just a numbers game at that point. I think the most positive aspect is Devlin and Shanklin will be like equivalent to getting fired at academy when they're back. 2 guys that they watch, you see them at every game, that they watch every minute, they're proper invested. They'll come back in. Aju's the most interesting one, because I think with Jamestown could do no wrong. £2 million signing. I just think between the injuries, he's never been able to show. But the way Derek McInnes talks about him,
I know.
it's like he's seen something that he's hinting very strongly that this guy, if he's on,
he's a class act.
Exactly, must be. And I think that injury, you need those kind of game-changing players to be fit. Stuart Finlay as well. Come on, brilliant. That's a tough one, we know. And I know there's always the one defender that's not playing circles back in. But I think that is Hearts, as much as McInnes will be able to galvanise at times the way they had in the 10-man game when players have been sent off, it just might become tough. So that if that one result goes against them, the players might not just be there to get it back the way. I think that might be the hardest bit in the run-in for them. It'll be tough. No, they have.
Well.
No one, see if Hearts don't win this league, it's not going to be about bottle or
no, definitely not.
It'll just be maybe just a season too early, just in the end, or how the
potentially. One thing I say about Stuart Finlay, and he is Derek McInnes' guy. We all know that he wasn't a Jamestown signing. Derek McInnes.
He's an analytics buster. That's true, isn't it? That's
apparently.
Yep,
didn't show up brilliantly.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're hinting at?
No, I think he's an outlier. I don't think he's an analytics darling. That's
every manager has their player, their lieutenant. They want him. That he has cost a couple of big goals this season.
Yeah,
defeats at Hibs, defeat at St Mirren. So it's not been flawless. And the point is, they can bring in Frankie Kent, who I think is a fabulous defender. Actually comes in, takes armbands sometimes, and 2 seasons ago was in the Team of the Year, SPFL Team of the Year. Or they can bring in Jamie McCart, 2 tried and tested centre halves. I don't think the loss of Finlay will damage them that much. Cammy Devlin's coming back, but I think the midfield sorted. Big Thomas Magnuson is really coming on to a game. Benny Beningame might be okay for this weekend. And then see when Shanklin comes back. And as long as Shanklin comes back in the form that he was previously, I think Hearts will be absolutely fine. As long as they stop the bleeding with injuries now, and there's no any more, I think Hearts will be absolutely fine. They've got the squad to handle
it. To stay in the same part of Edinburgh, but we'll switch code. Scotland.
Oh.
Now this is their off week. Now I don't know if maybe I noticed it last year, a few others as well, that for years it was 2 fixtures in the Six Nations in the week off, but they're condensing it. So we're having a wee breather this week, but it's still topical. and they're in the mix. That's the thing as well. And
ferocious, isn't it?
Lost Italy in the first game, but managed to beat England and Wales in back-to-back encounters, and the big ones next.
Well, I tell you
against
what,
France. Can they win? Can Scotland? The last time they won it, folks, was the Five Nations.
Yeah.
Can Scotland finally win the Six Nations?
Gone back a long time, isn't
yeah.
it?
Can they do it?
Aye. Will they do it? It's another question. Who'd have thought I'd be in this position asking this question after Rome?
I know.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But that would not have given you a chance of that. So good on them for dragging themselves back into it. The biggest test still lies ahead for me. France were favourites pre-tournament for a reason, weren't they?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Physicality up top. I'm no expert, but from what I've seen and what I've read, their physicality up top, it's there for all to see. Good kind of quality out wide. That is going to be a huge test of Scotland's mettle next Saturday. If they can get through that, then still, with this kind of recent record they got against Ireland in this tournament, there's still a massive hurdle to get over. So I do think the two biggest tests still lie ahead. Scotland got the quality to do it. Few injury problems maybe weakening that quality, but I mean, they've got the star of the show, Finn Russell. They've got their own game changers. If they just cut out the sloppiness that seems to hamper them at times, then they've got a real good chance. One game at a time. That's that horrible cliche. Who thought we'd throw that out? One game at a time. Get through France first. Massive hurdle, but get through that. If they can get through that with a victory, I'll say yes, they can win it.
Well, that's it. Well, because France are genuinely brilliant. So France, South Africa, to me, the two standout test teams are now. But France are still France, and they are the most. And Scotland are France are France, Scotland are Scotland. What I mean by that is France, for all their electric brilliance, right, can still have a wobble. Even in game, just a red card or something can go wrong, and it just sets them off. And Scotland is likely that you maybe throw in a performance that makes you scratch your head. They can also rise to the occasion. So I actually think that could be a cracking game, Scotland-France. And again, you make the point that you beat France and you're on top of the world. Maybe you can get thrown a bonus point in there as well, and then you have to go to Ireland. You go to Ireland, and then you face a team that you just cannot conquer. But maybe that will come as a winner. Maybe it'll be the case where you finally exactly you go and beat France, and even Scotland with their own doubts about their own ability, maybe go, do you know what? Let's just go to Ireland. Probably the weakest island. And the strangest thing this year with Six Nations is England flaws, Ireland flaws. There's issues in these teams that in a World Cup year as well. The whole point of World Cup or Six Nations or World Cup year is you peak and you see the best versions of teams. You're not seeing that this year.
Gregor Townsend needs it as well.
Exactly, but listen, Gregor Townsend, exactly. But for always the good and the bad, he's a strong manager in these games where I think he can come up with something that can keep us in the mix. So we're all back in blue for next weekend. Let's hope we can. Why not? Let's go.
Back in blue. Let's absolutely go for it. Not Les Bleu.
No.
Our blue.
Yes, that's right.
Right, last one. There's no obvious link to rugby here.
No.
Dave Cormack's intentions seem good up at Pittodrie, okay, but this is quite an obvious answer. Are Aberdeen regressing under his watch?
It is, but it's a question that needs said because I like Dave Cormack. I always find him, but it shows you even if you're the most public-facing owner, amiable, try to be on the side of fans, it gets to a point where this could be Aberdeen should be running better. This is multiple seasons. The Scottish Cup victory last year managed to gloss over the problems, and just year to year, it's a weak team. They're just unreliable. The signings, I don't know. The way I describe Jimmy Tilleen's Aberdeen, but I think it's just Aberdeen in general. They've almost got 20 players that can play in the starting 11, but how many are actually starters? Like Polvares, Clarksons, all these players. Like you'd name every player in the team. You can make a case for them to start or not, just depending on form. I feel that obviously Eric Horneland's the manager they want. I actually really like the look of this guy. I think he could be a manager of merit. I think he probably suits it. Aberdeen will only ever go to get anywhere with a front-footed style. This is your man. I always felt that a lot of teams have missed the trick post-Ange, where it's easy when you're Celtic with the most money. But I felt there was a wee bit of a cheat code when Postecoglou was at Celtic that the teams that if you I just like it. I think teams will get points if you really put teams under the cosh. But then ask you pass master will pass round that. There's maybe it's too simplified, but I just feel Dave Cormack, for all his good intentions, I think they need to have a look at how Aberdeen are running. Just in the long run, I think there needs to be some home truths in how they operate as a club. I just feel that that's another season where they're not in the mix. They're not going to make the top six. It's just irrelevance is strong, but this is Aberdeen, and this is maybe the Aberdeen who's modified and moved beyond. Derek McInnes, thanks for everything you've done, but we'll take it from here, and we've got a new way of working. I don't think the results over these years have been close to good enough, and I think there've been too many mistakes. How do you see it out there?
Well, during Jimmy Tillene, who was very much Dave Cormack's man, during his 18 months, Aberdeen were at no stage a good watch. Even when they went that remarkable winning run at the start, that's papering over a lot of cracks. Yep. They were scraping wins. They weren't a good watch, and then since that run came to an end, 15 months, I've got it written down here, the end of November 2024, they played 54 league games since then. They won just 13 of them, drawn 12 of them, and they lost 29 of them.
It's horrific, isn't it?
That Scottish Cup victory and what it brought to the city for 2 weeks, Jimmy Tillene will take that with him to the grave. Good on him. Brilliant fortnight. We're still celebrating it, I suppose. They've got the Scottish Cup in their cabinet, but the league's the bread and butter. They need to be a top six side, and they're miles off it. The form has been atrocious, absolutely atrocious. And two things they need to get right. They need to get a manager, the right manager that knows how to get that club operating again on the pitch, to bring a winning machine with a bit of style. And to do that, they need to get the recruitment right, because it's been horrendous. It hasn't worked this season. How many of Milanovic, Yenge, Blazetic, Kjartansson, we'll throw in Kevin Nisbet, Stuart Armstrong, how many of them have actually worked?
No,
the recruitment's been, and he's heavily backed Jimmy Tillene. A lot of money spent for Aberdeen, so it's been pretty atrocious. You look at Hibs, Aberdeen Hibs, maybe on a similar size club. Hibs are hardly flying this season, but they are 16 points ahead of Aberdeen. I think that tells you exactly where Aberdeen are.
And the recruitment's it's just a bit cuter. It's just they've got a better
absolutely.
Aye.
It's I don't think Aberdeen have signed a single player this season you could say has been a success.
No,
and that's where it starts, doesn't it?
So I think that's the perfect way to end it. Fraser, I can't thank you enough, mate. Honestly, I really enjoyed that. That was good stuff. Big games, big opinions you've done. That's been perfect.
Big weekend again. Can't wait.
There, yeah.
Scottish football's where it's at.
Oh, it's perfect.
It's that thing south of the border. All the eyes are heading north now, isn't it? It's brilliant.
4-way title race, mate. You can't avoid it. Listen, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to smash the like and subscribe buttons. You can follow us in the usual places: YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, and Apple Podcasts. And fire in your comments below. We especially like the nice ones, so keep them coming. And the last word is for our sponsor, NordVPN. Thanks again for a brilliant sponsor. So catch you all next week and take care. Thank you.